Welcome to the new episode of Perceptional Imprints. Today I have with me Harry.
Hi.
Harry, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Harry Papageorgiou. I'm a teacher for the English Montreal School Board, and I have a few ambitions, I guess you could say, of starting a company, starting a political movement.
Okay. Political movement.
Yeah, all with the same kind of goal of connecting people, bringing people together in ways that reflects authentic discovery of each other and being able to perceive people beyond our preconceived notions.
Interesting.
And in order to create a sense of mutual accountability in a city full of strangers.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Would you like to talk more about that aspect?
Sure.
Connections.
Sure, connection. I mean, I guess I'll just throw the question back to you. And maybe we can make it a bit more intimate, but like, what made you feel connected to me the first time we met?
The first time we met?
Yeah, I think it was at Tim's party.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not sure people know him,
Anyways.
but like, yeah. I think the sense of our talk, the way we connected was upon probably a topic, and then we started talking, and then we went deep into that conversation.
Right.
That's where I reconnect, but I'm if my memory serves well, but I'm not certainly sure what.
I mean, there was definitely that moment of your connection series, which I think is, all about connection. So I think that's something that maybe you think about a lot as well, right? I think that aspect is what brings us together.
Absolutely.
So if I can just throw the question back to you, what makes you want to have these connection series?
Okay, yeah, the connection series, I feel like the idea that I started this connection series because I feel that, we see people a lot, we have friends, we have connections, a lot of connections, but that are on surface level. So my idea was, how do I make it more deeper? How do I what can I do to bring people, together in a more authentic and genuine way?
Right.
And that genuine way is to be seen. For me, is one of the, I would say, one of the key points, at least, is the idea of, be seen the way they are, accepted, maybe not completely, but like the way you are without having to change the way you behave, the way you talk, and accepting the way you are.
So not wearing like a social mask, essentially.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's the idea, basically, when I started this podcast as well. So the Connection Series podcast, revolve around the same idea of perceptions, about how you're treated in the society, how you want to act and put up masks to please others, or not basically kind of living the way you like.
Okay.
Instead, over the period of time, you lose yourself and you question, who am I actually? Who am I? I've put on so many masks to help to, or fear of rejection, fear of not being accepted and whatnot. I don't like the term society. I'll come back to that. But that's what we do, just to please or just to be accepted. So the idea of this connection series was to bring people so that there's a strong bond within a smaller group of community. That's why I use the word community, not society.
Right.
To bring in a communal aspect where people actually see each other the way they are. And for lack of better word, to be accepted, their personality, the aura they bring, without having to change anything.
I think that's really interesting that you say that, because it sounds almost like, why I ask myself the question when I'm listening to this, why do people go so far to please others at the risk of betraying themselves? And even though they're afraid of this rejection, inevitably, by not being who they are, they will be rejected. Because I think that when you are authentic, when you do feel like you don't have to wear that mask, that you simply stop attracting the wrong people and start attracting the right people, right? Who treat you with kindness and the warmth that many people have never really experienced. And I'm not talking about people being nice, because anyone can be nice. But nice is kind of the standard, but warmth and kindness is that one step above, when people see you for who you are and they accept you. I do think that's a really interesting way to. It's a great mission, and I think that's why we're very aligned in terms of how we do that. I like doing these little small community-based events too, but I often struggle with this idea of like how do we have a larger impact? How do we? Because I love the little community around some of our friends, and I know for a fact that many people don't get to experience that acceptance, that warmth, that ability to really be yourself. And I wonder if there's a way to scale that up in a sense. And I don't know the answer to that question, but I know that it's something that's worth pursuing.
Absolutely. I wanted to get into that question of you said, oh, I had this thought, and I was like, oh, did you get any answers, or did you reflect upon those thoughts? And if something came up?
I don't think it's about necessarily, when I mean scale, obviously it's to some degree about quantity, but I do believe, and I still believe, that it's really about the quality of the impact you have on one person is better than having a small impact on thousands of people.
Absolutely.
Because it's the ability to inspire others to live a life true to themselves and then want to, I think, so I don't know if you're familiar with Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Yeah, I recently learned about it.
Yeah. So there's an expanded model that's not really part of the traditional model. So the normal one ends at self-actualization, which is pretty much living a life true to yourself, being authentic, and you've kind of satisfied all of the precursor needs of, esteem and safety and belonging and so on. But there's one above it in the expanded model called transcendence. And for me, that element of transcendence is not something even that spiritual, maybe, or mumbo jumbo. It's really just about helping others self-actualize. So once you have felt that joy of being in the world, being part of a community, being seen for who you are, I think there's a deep part of yourself that says, it's a shame that not everyone gets to experience this.
Yeah,
right?
Okay. I would like to add something on that. I always say when you love someone, you always share. So sharing is caring, But recently I realized I could only bring healing to people, but I cannot heal people.
Right.
Same thing. Yes, like when you said it's a shame that I cannot help them. You can bring what you know, but again, at one point, you do not want to take responsibility of it. Like that's where authentic self and taking care of yourself as well comes in. And I realized it like kind of, over the period of time that yes, I mean, when you care, you do things for others, but they would only do it when they feel it's right for them.
Right. They can only meet you at the depth that they've met themselves.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, I struggled with this very concept as a teacher quite a bit. Because I think on the reverse side, you're right. If you start to think that you can save people, it builds that savior complex.
Savior complex.
And that's not necessarily healthy because it creates a dynamic where you perceive yourself as almost above somebody.
Yeah.
And it's like that, spiritual guru type character who's like, oh, I am holier than thou. And even though that's not necessarily the intention, that's how it can be registered, perceived by the other person. Like, if you're trying to save me, it means inherently I'm broken.
I'm broken. I have something wrong with me. I'm struggling or something.
And I don't think, even if people know that to some profound layer of themselves, they know there's something that needs fixing. I don't think they like to be reminded, even in the subtle perceptual way that can happen, which is not always intentional, but it creates this kind of patronizing feeling. So you're right. As a teacher, I've struggled a lot with this idea of how do you just make the tools as easily accessible and well-rounded. So I think a lot about it as it's not necessarily about, fixing the person, but curating the tools that they need in their toolbox. And when they want to, I do think that a big struggle in society is also admitting when we need help. I think a lot of people are proud. Nobody wants to necessarily say we need help. But I think that what I care about the most is it does seem at least perceptually, that the world is full of broken people, and it's even governed by broken people who, I mean, what can you expect? It's broken leadership is just is a symptom of a broken electorate. All of these people who need help but don't know what help they need, and so when somebody comes and promises them solutions, of course they're gonna, appropriate that power for themselves, and then I don't know. So I think the first step is admitting, right? It's like when you're a drug addict or an alcoholic, you need to
acknowledgement,
right? And I don't know, like everyone seems to acknowledge it, but it's like it's very easy to diagnose all of the problems that we have on an individual level, and that society or communities or our families or our friends may have. But it's really hard to prognosticate and like, okay, how do we begin to treat this?
Yeah.
How do we begin to start repairing the rips in the social fabric? And you're right, it does start at that community level.
Yeah.
Right? But I also think that you mentioned earlier social media. I think that, well, I guess I'll ask you the question. Do you think that social media is helping to repair the bonds of society, or is it in fact doing the opposite, where it's kind of exacerbating or making worse these divides between us, accentuating them a little bit more?
How we are perceived. So for my reality, like how I'm perceived by my world, instead of like someone watching me, I don't know, like, far away.
Right.
So I would think about, like, whenever I'm talking, whenever I'm posting, I'm like, oh, is my dad watching? Oh, is my friend? Oh, like, is Harry watching? Or what would Harry think about me?
So like when you look at your story and you see all of the people, you don't really care about the number. You care about, are these like five, six people that I actually care about? Did they see my story?
That's kind of my world that I've created, or at least I'm like my immediate world, like I'm interacting in recent times, let's say in the last 5 years and so on.
Right.
So yes, we have friends from childhood and whatnot, but like you're not in touch with them at this situation where you're going through different phases of life. What you immediately think of are these people. So that's what I said about the immediate world.
Sure.
And getting back to your question, you talked about social media. Social media, I mean, I'm not generally a big fan of social media in terms of, as generally saying also our mind is not programmed to watch so much content in a short amount of time.
Information overload.
Information overload, emotional overload. You read a post about someone passing away. And then all of a sudden, you scroll and you see a video of someone dancing, or someone, something comic, something. So your brain is switching from sadness to happiness to grief to anger. Like there's different emotions switches, and your brain is not. I mean, it's probably strong enough, but it's not that capable to switch between emotions. Like, okay, do I grieve? Do I be happy? Should I be, dancing, joyous?
All in the span of 7 seconds, right?
Yeah, it's like So, firstly, that content, and now you're seeing different people from your friend circle, from influencers. They're having an amazing life. They're traveling and this, that, and you're trying to ground yourself. You're trying to learn something. You're trying to do something for yourself, but you're triggered by like, oh, everyone's having a good life, I'm not.
Yeah.
Then you're kind of putting yourself down and down.
It robs you of your joy to compare yourself constantly to others.
And over a period of time, you're feeling like, oh, everyone's having fun, I'm not. Maybe that's, again, a perception that you have created. And that's where I talk about imprints, perceptional imprints, the idea of creating an imprint by an experience that you lived. First thing, we talked about perceptions, and the idea of having this podcast was to change the imprints of the perceptions that we have carried, the perceptions that probably no longer serve you, right? And perception that you have seen or heard but not lived.
Right.
What you're doing now with social media is you're living those perceptions and creating those as an imprint and also carrying those forward. Because when you're not doing well, and then you're meeting people and like, oh, he's having a good life, that person would also think the same, and then it's just like a stamp pad of imprints that you're spreading across, and it continues instead of being positive. So that's my at least takeaway of social media. I'm not sure if I answered.
No, I definitely think that you did. I think that's exactly the idea that I share with you, is that that social media, by virtue of, you talked about two major things that I agree with, and I actually wrote a blog post about this. I called it like the trap of the emotion economy, of this, well, how am I supposed to feel? Yeah. And then next, and then next, and then next, and there's just like a saturation of information, but also, yes, of emotions, which I think is really unhealthy, in the sense that you're right, we haven't evolved for this amount of stimulus, and I think that that's going to lead to some level of emotional dysregulation. And the second point that I also agree with is that you're constantly comparing yourselves to others, and I think that is exactly the purpose and design, because that's how capitalism works as a rule of thumb, right? If everyone were this monastic, ascetic person who didn't really compare themselves and was content with a simple meal and a simple life, then capitalism would crumble, right? But it doesn't work that way. Yeah. It works because we're always, oh, he went to Santorini, he went to Vienna, like, oh, he has a new girlfriend, he got a new car, she got this, she got her nails done, whatever. And then that just makes you, it feeds into the machine of desire constantly. That is just the fuel, really, for constant growth, in a sense. But also, again, to bring it back to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, there's deficiency needs and there's growth needs, right? So deficiency needs are these things that are constantly being emptied, like food, right? So you always need more of it. You'll never just have like the best meal of your life and say, I'm good for the next 5 years, right? But so like think about that in terms of how we consume content and how we consume material goods, right? You're never going to say like, okay, I got the BMW, I'm good for life. No, you're going to drive it for a few months, and then your friend is going to post how he just got, the new Mercedes, and you're going to be like, nah, I'm not happy anymore. I need that too. Yeah. So I definitely think that there's an element to that, right? Whether it's like not just like material goods, but like, oh, this guy has like a perfect body, or this girl has, bigger boobs or nice butt or whatever. And it's robbing us of our joy and our ability to be happy with our own bodies and what we possess, right? So I do think that there's a lot of that, and anyways, especially when it comes to like beauty standards, and there's a lot of like beauty influencers who just make people feel very inadequate with who they are, which to a degree is not, if you're unhealthy and you'd like to look more healthy, there's a difference between let's say feeling like you're not beautiful fundamentally, because I think beauty is not just something that comes from your body. It comes from your soul, right? The energy that you bring to a place. And the reality is because there's always a camera stuck in your face and it's not really authentic, you're trying to sell somebody, you're trying to hook somebody into a lifestyle, into your lifestyle, to follow what you think is the best. There isn't that authenticity. So you're not bringing beauty. You're not transcending your self-actualization, saying like, hey, here are the tools for you to like, you're selling them something. So fundamentally, there's always that transactional nature, almost like, I need your views, I need your attention, and in exchange, I'll give you the secrets to how to be a beautiful, rich, successful, and I think that there's something incredibly pervasive about all of that. So forgive me for ranting a little bit. No, it's just I love it. I think that a lot of how we've built these social media, and I often think these big companies that run them, sure, they don't really have much competition, but what if we built something better? Could we build something that really is about understanding people at their core level, their values, their sense of identity, and like progressively getting to know people through like principles of scarcity. So that's kind of the idea that we're building with our new social media app that we're trying to make.
Amazing. Okay.
If I can like plug that in.
For sure. I love the way you actually, showcase the influencer life, or like how they sell it, or how like, oh, I got this and you can get it. It's like steps to achieve success, steps to achieve beauty, but you're already beautiful. Like, I don't know, like, you know, there are different standards. What's the standard of beauty? You know, when you say like, oh, getting fair or getting those, as you mentioned, like perfect body and whatnot, does that mean you're not already beautiful? Like, already telling people that same thing, you're either broken or you're not enough.
Right. That's the thing. It's the enoughness.
Yeah.
Right. You're never enough. Like, you know, you don't have a 6-pack. Well, you know, now you can have an 8-pack. You know, like be super ripped, and you're never enough. Like you're just a little too fat. You're just a little too poor. And it's really just kind of egging people on constantly for more. Again, it's this desire machine. Right?
I recently came across a post. It was talking about how social media is also kind of an act of gluttony, because you're never satisfied. You're like, oh, I want more, or there's an escape mechanism, and then you're like, oh, I'll feed myself some content. And like, you know, it's like you're asking always for more, either to run away from your emotions or from your situations, and then try to get more and more.
Yeah.
So,
There's actually this really interesting concept I'd like to bring up directly related to this that I had read about a while back, and it's related to like a Freudian theory of Thanatos and Eros, right? So Thanatos is kind of the death drive, and Eros is the creative drive, like the love, the ability to create, desire to create. And when you mention some people can be like depressed or in a bad headspace, their brains are trying to approximate death, but they don't really know what death is like. So they simply model death or the death drive as relinquishing or giving up control, right? So the way that these infinite scrolling apps work is like you've completely surrendered your control to the algorithm, right? You don't have to think about the content that you're consuming. It's not like, it's just you scroll and the algorithm decides what you're going to watch today.
Yeah.
And every day is something different, right? Like today it's going to be all music. The next day it's going to be, you know, like cottagecore. The next day it's going to be fitness. And it's, you don't have to choose. And I do think that to some degree, like this is feeding into this this rise of depression and anxiety in people, right? It's like, it's so easy to give up. It's so easy to not have to curate, to think about what I want to consume, right? It's like, I don't know what I want out of life, but the algorithm will expose me to all of these things. And I just have to do this one repetitive gesture.
It's funny. It's also reflected in the way you live in the society.
Yeah.
And like, same thing. You don't know what you actually need. And it also aligns with people pleasing and whatnot, but like, oh, like what would you like to have for dinner? I don't know, like whatever you make or whatever is fine and it's fine. But you're not satisfied with whatever is served to you. You're like, oh, I would have liked something else, but like, what would you like?
But you don't know.
You don't know.
Right.
Because that's where you're like, oh, I'm used to having content or having something that's given to me without me asking for it. And I'm just like, I'm not satisfied.
Or you're just satisfied enough. Just enough. Right?
Just enough, but that's the pattern you're repeating also in life. They're like, oh, maybe there's something better. Or maybe there's something better.
Exactly.
And constantly looking for something better. I would love to hear what you're about to say.
I think that just one final note, I think that current social media is a bit like a bag of chips. And that, you know, there's a lot of food scientists who go into designing the perfect chip, where it's just good enough in one bite that you want another one. But then once you've eaten the whole bag of chips, you're still kind of hungry. You know, it doesn't satiate you. It doesn't fulfill you, right? But it's just good enough, right? Just salty enough that, okay, I want one more. Just crunchy enough, you know? So I'm thinking, I think about this a lot. And whatever social media does currently, I'm trying to design the opposite experience as a rule of thumb. So where social media is asking like you to care about what thousands of people think and to connect with hundreds and millions of followers, we are going instead with the principle of scarcity. And there's strangers, so you can't really, I mean, there's already social media apps where you can be friends with your real life friends. The goal here is for you to connect authentically with strangers in your proximity. The other aspect of the app is self-discovery, like actually getting to know yourself, which is work. It's not easy because we're just guiding people. We're not necessarily giving them the answers of just enoughness.
Okay.
So the idea is that we have all these different kinds of quizzes and text-based prompts that you have to like reflect. And this gets put onto your profile. So we don't want people, we are also trying to push people to not be on our app all the time.
Okay.
Right? We want them to connect.
Yeah.
And I do think that technology has a role in this, but severely limited in the sense that, you know, if you really like this person, go meet them in real life if you want, right?
Okay.
So if you care about really understanding authentically who is Abhishek, you know, how do I want to know more about you beyond what you're telling me. That's my incentive to keep engaging with you. And if I don't find you interesting at all, then there's no need for that, right? But you're right, to some, I will admit that this is just a way for us to increase engagement. And I don't necessarily think engagement is a bad thing. We do have to find ways to get people to use it, but it's because I believe that fundamentally this app will be a better use of time. In the sense that...
Than the others.
Yeah. So you're not just sending like a photo of like, hey, look, I just had like a Caesar salad. You're engaging in the kind of conversation that is about like, well, why do you want to connect to people? Like, why is connection important to you? What does it mean? So like we are guiding the conversations without forcing it down their throats either.
Yeah, I'll actually was thinking that, and I want to ask you the same question. Why do you think people would want to go on the app? Like, why do you think someone wants to connect to a random person and have a connection?
Right.
Like, when probably they could do the same in general, in life,
Sure.
at a bar, at a cafe,
Right.
on the street.
You're absolutely
Anyway,
right.
Yeah.
So to first answer the first question, they don't all want to. So it's kind of a niche. I've actually talked to a few people who have said, I have no interest in actually meeting strangers. Like, I'm very content with the friends that I have now. So it's not for them. It's really for people who are maybe more extroverted and interested in like branching out. There's also another aspect to our app, which is like more motivational and like group chats. So group chats with specific mandates that change every week. But the idea is, if you want to branch out and meet people, and I don't know, like there can be moments in your life where I think of friendships a lot like gardening. So like the bigger you build your garden and the more you water that garden and take care of it, the more it will be fruitful. And in that sense, I mean, you'll make friends, you'll invite them to things, you'll meet up, you'll do these activities together. And I think that the secret to a happy life is always having something to look forward to, right? So like, I was looking forward to this podcast. I was looking forward to just meeting with you. And like, I plan my week so that every moment that I'm not working, either on the app or in my day job as a teacher, that I have like things to look forward to.
Yeah, absolutely. I like a few things you said. You talked about gardening and watering your own garden, right?
Yeah.
And it's not just about friends. I believe it's for every relation, or I call it equations in your life. Be it your family, be it your friends, be it your partner relationship. And we always often come across that like, oh, it's not working, and we'll just not, just not proceed, or like we'll stop or whatnot. Would you do the same for your family? Would you not take an interest to actually water that relationship or that equation with your family, with your mom, with your dad, with your sister? Yes, you had a fight, but are you not, kind of talking it out after? It just happens like it's again, that's a new trend. Maybe we can talk about sometime again later. It's about like, oh, the relationships are not working, but are you trying to make it work? And the second thing you talked about is people are not interested to make new friends. They're content with who they have as friends. And I don't understand the reasoning. Maybe it's just because we think the way we think as humans. Because if you actually pay attention to it, every friend that you have in your life, every single person that you know, apart from your family, was a stranger to
At
you.
some point,
At some point.
Yeah.
So how is that? This is comfortable, but that's not.
Right.
So I always feel like when people say, oh, you're going with a random group of people, and then, yes, that's how I would make friends.
Right.
And that's how I knew you. That's how I knew you. And like, so many people. But there's an understanding, there's a reasoning behind like, oh, I'm not comfortable making friends or talking to strangers. But that friend was a stranger to you at some point.
I totally get what you're saying.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of interesting things you said. So let me say a few. I think first, the kind of people who go to a party.
Yeah.
So I asked my partner, actually. I said, like, what kind of person are you when you go to a party? Like, you know? And she said, essentially, like, I will try to make one new friend, but mostly stick with the people I already know. And I know that some people, when you take them to a party, they will basically like just stick onto you and like hold on to you, especially if they're an introvert. They have a hard time like being energized by the concept of meeting new people. It's scary, it's intimidating. I think that they don't necessarily have strong interpersonal skills either, where they're terrified of awkwardness or discomfort or rejection, right? And when I go to a party, I'm a bit like a butterfly in the sense that I'll go from flower to flower until I find one. I'm like, ooh, you're really interesting. And then I'll stick with you and I'll try to cultivate that deeper relationship. But I know that not everyone's like that, and that's okay. Like we all have, I think that, again, the difference between extroverted and introverted people is not necessarily do you like people or not. It's do other people energize you or do they drain you? And I realized actually that even though I would say I'm like 90% extrovert, 10% introvert, some
number.
Types of people drain me.
That's a high number, 90%. Okay.
Yeah, but I actually I recently, and maybe I shouldn't be saying this, but I recently saw my friends from high school.
You don't have to say.
No, but I think it's a really like illustrative point.
Okay.
And I think that my friends from high school, they definitely were lovely people. I learned a lot, but I never really felt like I could connect to them on a deep level. Like I never felt like I was really my authentic self with them. And I find that those are the kinds of interactions that I find draining. When I feel like I can't be myself, or because other people are taking up too much room in a conversation, it makes me feel exhausted. I like conversations where there's a level of reciprocity, a level of mutual exploration. And I think that's the secret to having many friendships where you have that kind of thing, where you see each other, as you had said earlier.
Yeah, I like what you said. Like when you go to a party or you're a social butterfly, you'll have connections, multiple connections, but not necessarily like they're deep. But that's where my idea also comes in. When you want to connect with people, yes, you can have multiple people, but you'll eventually find a deeper connection. But that doesn't mean you need to deprive yourself of those connections. Those connections may be serving you in a different way. May serve you in a different way, like on a party level, on a I don't know, like a different knowledge level or whatnot. But there's also a perception of like, oh, I straight away want a deeper connection. You wouldn't probably have that because you're seeking for something and you're comparing or you're having a benchmark for every person you meet. Like, oh, this person is not satisfying my intellectual needs. Oh, this person is not satisfying my, I don't know, like compassionate, empathy needs and whatnot. So it kind of changes. And then if you already have and walk around with a benchmark, you wouldn't probably find even if you see someone that probably reciprocates, but you're still not content, because I feel, yes, the idea of having multiple connections is good, but you can expand on those connections later. But having multiple connections, I feel is a great start.
I think that's interesting. Like I think I was actually having this conversation with a friend last night. Again, this idea of, like, as you said, having almost like checklists for what you expect from a conversational partner, or like, oh, my empathy needs, like this person's not meeting this or this or this or this need. I think that the way I engage with people more is, I think my superpower is listening a lot of the time. I do love talking, but
I can see that.
Yeah. Well, this is really like the kind of venue where it's okay for me to talk a lot more than I usually do.
No, but I'm saying I know you in person. I know our conversation. I love the way you talk. I love, like how you put things, how you put your thoughts into words. I like.
And I think that the way I put my thoughts comes because I'm a listener, and my own mind is very quiet, weirdly enough. Like even though it sounds like I'm thinking at 1,000 miles a minute, my mind is very silent, actually, and it creates presence. So when I'm at a social event, I like to really listen to people that I find engaging and interesting in the same way that I will engage with them. And I was having this conversation that there's two different types of people. There's people who will tell you a lot, and there's people who will ask you a lot. I'm more of an asker. I'm like, I will not tell you unless you ask me. Generally speaking, I will remain fairly reserved about what I personally think about anything, unless you directly ask me for my opinion. And the person I was talking to last night, Tim, was saying, no, like, I think if you have something interesting to say, like, you should say it. And I will keep saying interesting things, and then...
I mean, that's how you probably grow together, I guess. I always feel balance in everything. I mean, a lot of my friends watching probably would be laughing right now, is because for every single thing I say, there needs to be a balance. Too much of anything is bad.
Right.
And even like too much listening is like, okay, am I actually just listening to listen, or is it becoming my characteristic and not actually like that I want to not listen, or I want to listen, So like too much of anything I feel can impact in you in a different way. But yeah, thanks for those perspectives. I would actually like to also know, because I feel we kind of deviated from what we were talking about your app.
Sure.
And then went onto a different trajectory.
Yeah.
But that also is important.
I think they're related.
Since it's related to the app and like how you're connecting with people. But yeah, just to bring a general sense back to what you were saying, I would like to hear more about like the connections and how the social score or the
trust score.
The trust score. Yeah, I would like to know.
I mean, the way I think about interpersonal connections is very much influencing the design choices of how we want to, I wouldn't say like engineer or orchestrate connections, but guide the kinds of interactions, right? So if you think about any kind of chatting application, there's no real structure to it, right? So the way we want to change that, or maybe innovate in some small way, is, for instance, in the individual chats to give very meaningful questions or guidelines of how to have a conversation. Because as this might be perceived as common sense, like how to have a conversation, but you'd be surprised. Like, I'm not that old. I'm only 28. But in my 28 years, especially I would say in the last 8 years, I've noticed to what degree people don't know how to have conversations.
Yeah, it's an art.
It's a balance. It's the art of balance. It's the art of like, when should I be listening? When should I be speaking? And am I listening with the intention of replying or with the intention of understanding? Right? And I mean, that's what I love about you. I feel like you are very present, and you will listen with the intent of understanding really what another person is saying. But not many people do. A lot of people are just like, I'm just waiting my turn to speak. Right? And then sometimes, like you said, they can just sit there and listen for the sake of listening. And then other people just think, oh, he's disengaged. He doesn't actually care because he's not saying anything. Or he's just asking questions just to keep the conversation going because he's afraid of the awkward silence, right? So these are the kinds of things that inform how we're designing that application, right? So we do want to like focus it on not just like questions and prompts, but also like shared common goals that users might have, right? So for instance, we will use some of their data and say like, let's say they have some similar purpose that they've answered in one of the exploration quizzes. We want to give them mandates where it's not just about chatting for the sake of chatting, but chatting for the sake of accomplishing some action together, right? So let's say you put in your purpose and you write, like, I want to be more in shape this year. So we might match you with somebody who has a similar purpose. And then we know that. So we say, well, here is a goal that you can accomplish this week, this day, or this week. Or if you want to connect to people, go talk to a stranger. And we give them these like quests, kind of, for lack of a better word. We don't have an actual term for it, but goals, I think we just called them, what did we actually end up calling them? Mandates, I think was the actual like variable. But this idea of like, we give people micro goals every day to accomplish. And of course, like whether you do it or not, like we're not verifying that necessarily. But
It's for you.
It's for you. So if you like think, oh, this is an inspiring goal today.
Yeah.
And I think about it in the same way that I think about teaching and anything in life. Like think about this. This is a great metaphor that I heard from one of my favorite content creators. His name is Veritasium on YouTube. I don't know if you know him. But he gave this talk and he said, the world is full of heavy things, but not everyone is strong. The world is full of open fields, but not everyone can run a marathon. The world is, like in our phones, right, our pockets, we carry all of the information in the world, but not everyone is a genius, right? So the problem has never been like we don't have the things, we don't have the information, we don't have the potential to do it. It's that we're not inspired to want to do it to begin with, right? So the goal is really connection and inspiration that go together. So I think that's a little bit different than what you'll get in a traditional social media experience.
That's beautiful. Yeah, I love the concept. I love the way you're asking people. It's like I kind of relate with what you said before, like, oh, they can or they cannot, it's up to them. Because it seemed like you purchase an, online course or to learn, let's say, any instrument. It's there, you purchased it, but do you have the will to go show up every day and learn, watch those videos and whatnot? It seemed like if it's related, I don't know, if it sounds related, it's something like that. Yes, initially I was like super motivated. I took the subscription and whatnot, but I don't feel motivated. So maybe is there also, from what I'm hearing, there's probably also daily motivational checklist kind of like people,
absolutely,
like that allows people or motivates people to go and just to connect.
I think that any source of motivation in life tends to be some sense of mutual accountability, right?
Yeah,
so it's
I love that aspect.
For example, like that's why we're trying to pair people in specific group chats and why we're trying to give people with similar goals that mutual accountability, right? So it's this idea of like, let's say again, you want to get fit, which is something that I've personally been trying to do in the last few months.
In great shape.
Thanks. But a big part of that is we have a mutual friend, Marek, and we had been hiking in Slovakia, and I was struggling. Like I was really struggling. And we had talked, and he said, like, you know what? Like I want to get back in shape. And he said, great, like when we both get back to Montreal, let's get a gym membership and we'll go to the gym.
Nice.
So that's what we did. And it's that idea of like, well, now it's not just, because it's easy to kind of disappoint yourself and become complacent, but it's the whole reason why we have coaches. It's the same reason we have teachers, right? It's that they hold us accountable. And it's like, we then become worried like, oh, I'm not just failing myself, like I'm failing this person too.
Yeah, I mean, I love that. That's why I said I love accountability, but as long as, again, it's a balance.
Right.
Because once you lose that balance, you're like, it becomes more like a repetitive task, or you're like getting annoyed. It's like too much in the face, like, oh, why can't I just take a day off? Why can't I just so like listening to yourself as well and whatnot. I love the accountability aspect, but I just wanted to bring back to that.
Right.
Yeah. So, all right. On an ending note, I feel like we've got a lot in one episode.
Sure.
I would love to know from you, like, what's your final thought that you would want to share, either about your app, either if you've missed something that you would want to add. I would love to know that.
Sure. I'd say a big part of my current every human has like some Herculean task or quest that they feel like they're destined to overcome. And the big one that has always bugged me is social entropy, like this idea that people are just getting further and further apart. And that's reflected in all aspects of society, like cities full of strangers, lack of trust in each other and in government, in institutions, algorithmic echo chambers. So a lot of what we've talked about already. And I think that fundamentally you do bridge that through education, through connection, authentic connection. And I think about a lot about the legacy that I want to leave behind. And I think that one major thing that we didn't have a chance to talk about that I would have loved to talk about is some of the more political ideas that I've had. And there's one that I'll just briefly talk about.
Okay.
Because we do have a political party called the Civic Party of Canada. And the idea is that we want to replace the Senate with a jury of quasi-randomly selected citizens who are like appropriate in specific roles. And then we have like a kind of like a tokenomics model of voting. So like those who are accomplishing the most have the most say while being proportional in a lot of safeguards. This is something that we've thought about. I've been thinking about for almost 10 years.
Okay, wow.
So
maybe could,
another episode maybe.
Yeah, maybe we could talk about it on another episode. Yeah.
But the idea then becomes, well, our politicians become accountable to citizens directly. Instead of just like trying to target them for voting. It's the citizens who ultimately oversee the government, because that's currently the role of the Senate. But it doesn't really do that, right? So again, it's really just focused on this theme of accountability. And then it becomes, well, our politicians will not just be spending money recklessly or in corrupt ways, but in ways that tangibly benefit society, because if not, they get the boot, right? Because you should give citizens the ability to remove politicians who are corrupt, which technically the Senate can do, but they don't, because they're equally as corrupt in a lot of ways. Anyways, that's really just one thing that I think is really necessary at a higher level, at an institutional or systemic level. But that's maybe a conversation for another time.
That's amazing. Thank you. Thanks for summing it up. Thanks for briefly walking us through the idea. I love that. And yes, maybe we could talk about it some other time.
Sure.
And wrapping up on what you said about connections, that basically was my idea of connections when I did the connection series as well, is we live in a big city, as you said, like big cities, but people are not connected. Same thing, the idea was like, we see people in different places, in parties and, events and whatnot. But at the end, you feel like, I am by myself. I am feeling, like I am going through my emotions all alone. I don't have someone to talk to. Because I feel that like, why would I want to burden someone with my my emotions, my thoughts, my whatever I'm going through, and everyone thinks the same in that perspective. And like that becomes like everyone wants connection, but everyone's afraid to ask for it. Everyone's afraid to ask for help and connection and whatnot. So we generally noticing we all want the connection, but we're not asking for it. So that's where the authenticity comes in, like, can we just be authentic and just say what we need, like to express our needs better and to be accepted the way we have.
I think that's a really great way to sum it up. And I just want to thank you for taking the time to set all this up and have me on the podcast.
Yeah, it was a pleasure. Yeah, it was a pleasure having you.
Awesome.
Thanks.